مسألة شبوة داف ضمن هي عمود ألف 4 5 lines down بعدين اشتغل must be any على خامة if the guy told two witnesses that I want you to swear not to harm if you don't testify for me شمع إيش plain tell me my times that someone so if this guy promised me he'd give me $200 Jonathan he didn't give it to me yet and if they falsely testified عليهم put in their still to her why شئنا حيدين إلا only خياب to pay that only خياب a korban for swearing falsely for testimony only أعطيها one keep you only for a real monetary claim like a case of a deposit. Over here the guy said I'll give you that doesn't mean that doesn't make him required. Right? It's definitely wrong if he goes against his word, but it's not a requirement to pay. Therefore, it's not a real money case. Second case, mashbi ani alechem. Someone says to me, I want you to swear that when you will know of testimony for me, should only do that you testify. If they go against that. Why? I mean, because the swearing happened before testimony. He didn't know testimony yet. Third case, Amar b'beit knesset, the guy got up in shul, Amar, and he announced to everybody, mashbi ani alechem, I want you all to swear. Didn't do that. If you were to know testimony from me, you should come testify. Because he didn't specify who he wanted the Shevuot to work. Guy told the witnesses, I want you to swear, Ish Ploni Ploni, that so and so, if you know testimony from me, that you should come testify. Shavua, and they said, well, they swear. We don't know testimony from you, but they already didn't know it from him. But they only knew it from him from word of mouth. Levi told Shimon, who now knows it, who witnessed it, right? So therefore, that's witness from witness. That doesn't count. Or one of them is relative, or pasul testify. Then these witnesses are not chaya because there wasn't solid and correct, eligible legal testimony. Shalach b'yad Abdullah, said the guy sent his slave to ask the witnesses to swear. Or the defendant said, you should come testify for him. Because they has to hear it from the guy himself and not versus anybody, not from anybody else. Someone says 2 minutes, I want you to swear. If you don't testify for me, right, I know the case of the promise, it doesn't count because for the word sin. لما كان تحسب النمر عندك حساب ما لم تصير يشفى عارف كان يبغى بيشفى لازم تكون case of a bona fide monetary claim. Next case in the Mishnah must be the second case of that if you were to know it. So how do we know that if you don't know it, testimony yet, you can't swear on it yet? Then Bernard must be an Echem the pasuk says V'shama kol Allah v'hu ed or ra'a o yada. Misha k'ma idul shavua v'lo shakma shvua did right. That if we prove from the pasuk that it has to be that the testimony came before the swearing, not the swearing before testimony knowledge. Amar b'bedek the guy announced in shul Mishnah Echem. Hadna doesn't work much more. Even if the actual witnesses were there in the shul. The Gemara Pshita, of course, if not, they're not. The Gemara says, no, let's read the case had the car where even they were standing next to the witness. You might think if he's announcing to the whole show with those guys next to him, maybe he's for sure talking to them. No, he has to specify them outright. Tanakh said as well, that Asi Asha the Adam in so group was standing by David and his witnesses were there. But tell everybody, I want all of you to swear. If you didn't specify them, it still doesn't count. Yaakov, you might think even in the case, I feel like Amar Kohen kind of even said everybody's standing here. In that case, they would be a chayav because I want all of you. He didn't just say I want you. I want all of you. He specified each one. Okay. The guy told the witnesses, and he wanted them to swear, but they weren't kosher to testify or they didn't have good testimony. Patur. Tembrana, mal shnayim mekpene lechem plani plani yatem lidlu shise provani varini dildu bebed or shaya echan gor besu. Mishnah said, "Yehoch event tamal pasuk says in lo yagid benasa avano." Beru in haggadah remember that pasuk's only to someone is able to testify correctly. These guys are not. Baske shalach bi'aradov. He's a messenger or a slave. Tembrana shalach bi'aradov or shmanan da'abash ben lechem she'etan levedeni. Yeah, yehoch event tamal. Im lo yagid v'nasa avono v'nasa he shall bear his sin. My where does it learn it from? Im lo yagid. The pasuk said with an extra vav by the word lo. Im lo yagid v'nasa avono. If he doesn't do it, he'll sin. Not if he has someone else. You bring the news for him. Not if he has someone else bring his claim forward. Next Mishnah. Someone says, I want you to swear. It's about any I command you to testify for me. Oh, sorry, I'm binding you to testify for me. They're all chayav. They're all good ways of making them swear. B'Shemayim B'Ba'aretz, you said just by heaven and earth. Harei Putrin the Patur. Be'elet Darav, you said swear by God's name of Amonai, B'Yodke or B'Yodke Vavke, B'Shakai, B'Tzvaot, B'Hanun, B'Rachum, B'Erech Apayim, B'Rav Chesed, B'Chol Knin, any type of nicknames or sub names of Hashem. هل خايفين خياف هم كلاب كلهم خياف someone curses them they names خياف ميتا as well they're married حمين باتورين مخانين باتور هم كلاب عبيد بيموت بكلهم خياف someone curses his father or mother any of his names they're married they're all خياف حمين باتورين مخانين say only خياف only use God's regular name هم كلاب اسمه بخير بكلهم someone curses himself or someone else any of the names over بلوتاسيت only بلوتاسيت Yakecha Hashem Elokim. If the guy says this witnesses, Hashem will strike you if you don't testify for me. Vechen Yakecha Elokim. He says, may God strike you. Zuhi Allah Torah. That's the curse that's written in the Torah, and therefore that's written by testimony. So the pasuk says, if you don't testify, we testify, God will strike you. So if the guy, that's what the guy says to the witnesses. It's a good enough way to make him swear. Al Yakecha Mivarechecha Viyitiv Lecha. Right, so let's say the guy says the opposite. Instead of quoting the curses, what if he quotes or says the positive things that will happen? God should bless you. God won't hit you. God won't torture you. And God won't hit you. Is that good enough? The mayor says, "Mechayev, yechayev," because we can see what he's referring to. Wasn't good enough, not clear. What did the guy say to the witnesses? The guy said, I want you to swear with the Shevuot written in the Torah. Or the commandment in the Torah. I want to bind you with the Isur that the Torah says you can't hide your testimony. That's the guy said, I want to chain you, testify. The Torah never wrote kovel. I can say that it means chaining. I want you to swear. I want to command you to swear. I bind you or chain you. Okay. All these names or adjectives of Hashem are all work. The middle of the Hanun Rachum Mishmod. I mean that the word Hanun Rachum is names of Hashem. You're allowed to erase certain names of Hashem. You can't erase certain names. You can't erase the following. Kegon, Kel, Elokecha, Elokim, Elokechem, which is what a pasuk was used when Hashem told Moshe to tell them Bnei Israel that he's coming in Mitzrayim. Aladal Amonai V'Yudke Yudke Vavke Shakai Tzvaot Harei Hakim. You can't erase these names. Aval Hagadol Hagibor Hanora Hagadir Habahazak V'He'amis V'He'izuz Hanun V'Rachum Erech Habayim V'Hased Harei Hakim. You can't erase these. So Hanun Rachum you can't erase. How is that be considered a name of God? Rashi says no. Amar Bayeh Mastin Amishna B'Mishehu Hanun is talking about a case B'Mishehu Hachum V'Kamar. He's not saying the actual thing. He says, he who is merciful or he who is compassionate. That's why we know it's for sure referring to God. If that's the case, why doesn't it work when the guy says, by the heavens and earth? Maybe he's referring to it. He's saying, by me, by whom the heavens and earth belong to. So that should include God. How come that doesn't work? The Gemara says, since nobody else is known, there's no other name of someone who's known as gracious or compassionate or kind. Only Hashem is known to have that adjective. That's why you can automatically assume that. Maybe the guy by heaven and earth, maybe he's actually asking the heaven and earth to swear. Okay. Instead of saying God. Turn around. כתב א' למד מאלוקים מהשם, שין דלת משקי, א' דלת מעמוני, צדי ב' מצבאות, הרי אלו זה נמחק רבי יוסף אומר, right, so if someone wrote the aleph lamed from Elokim or the yod ke from Amonai, you can't erase that. If you wrote the shin daled from Shakai and the aleph daled from Amonai, tzadi bet from tzvaot, you can't erase those. Rabbi Yosef Mer tzvaot kulam hak, you erase the whole word tzvaot. Shalom nikras tzvaot elo l'shem mitzvah, because tzvaot only refer to bnei Yisrael. Shneimar v'hoseti et tzvaot hai et ami et bnei Yisrael eretz Mitzrayim. Mar Shmuel says, "Ena l'chak Rabbi Yosef, l'chak not Rabbi Yosef, and therefore you cannot erase tzvaot." Call out the Hashem any attachment to Hashem's name, before and after, then in you can erase it. The Lefanaf was the case of a prefix before Hashem's name. Lamunai, the Lamed Nimhak, Bamunai, the Bet Nimhak, Bamunai, the Bab Nimhak, Meamunai, Mem Nimhak, Sheamunai, Shin Nimhak, Hey Adonai, Hashem He Nimchak, Kamonai, Kaf Nimchak. Right, all these letters from before Hashem's name. La'acharav, because that was the case of afterward, a suffix of Hashem's name. Elokeinu, the nu Nimchak. Elokechem, Elokehem, Hem Nimchak. Elokechem, Chem Nimchak, the endings. Okay, Achem Amrim, La'acharav Nimchak, you can't erase after the suffixes because Shekvar Kedusha Hashem, because Hashem's name was already made Kadosh from before it, and therefore you can't erase it. Marav Huna, Halachak Achrim, Halachak Achrim, therefore you can't erase the end. Abraham, Galatia, Lenavot, Givat Binyamin Shlomo, Daniel, Siman. Kol Hashem Adam Torah, Abraham Kadesh. All the names written by Hashem, all the names of Hashem written by Abraham are actual Hashem's names. Chutz Mizeh Shul Chol, except for one of them, which is not Hashem's name. Shneimar, Vayomar, Amonai, Imna Vasalti Hain Be'enecha. He said to the angels, my masters, please don't leave if I may find his favor. So, they say, no, that's actually referring to Hashem. Abraham was talking to Hashem. The opinion that says that. How do we know that getting guests is more important than greeting Hashem? Because we see Abraham told Hashem, "Hold, wait over here." So the pasuk is referring to Hashem. So he says, it's referring to Hashem, not the angels. Okay, all the names of Hashem mentioned by Lot is not Hashem's name. Except for one, Alna Amuna Hinena Masa Abdecha Chen Be'anecha. Mish Yesh Bedullah Mudla Hayat Zakaz Baruch Hu. He says, don't leave to save my because you saved my life. He's referring to this, who saved my life, Hashem. Kol Shemad Benavot Kodesh. All the names mentioned by Navot is referring to by Hashem. The Micha Hol, but all the names by Micha are not Hashem. Rabbi Elazar Omer Benavot Kodesh. The names by Navot are Kodesh. The Micha Yesh Men Hol Yeshem Kodesh. Some of them are Hashem, Muslim or not. Aleph Lamed Hol, the Aleph Lamed ones are not Hashem. Yod Ke Kodesh, the Yod Ke is Hashem's name. Who's Mizak except for one? Sha'aleph Lamad Vehu Kidesh Kol Yimei Hayot Bet HaElohim Bishilo. Right, so it's referring to the Mishkan, those inside there, that actual Hashem's name. So these two stories inside the stories of Navot, which was a guy who was killed by the King Ahav and his wife Izebel, and Micha, a person who made up an idol for Bnei Israel. Okay. The name is written by the story of the Pilegish Begivah, the woman who was violated by Shevuot Binyamin. Binyamin wanted to take revenge against his people and kill them. Bnei Israel wanted to kill his people. Binyamin said, no, we're not releasing them. And Bnei Israel almost destroyed the entire Shevuot Binyamin in their war. So now, it's a whole story. They seemingly asked Hashem 3 times, should we kill Binyamin? The first 2 times they got walloped in the war. The third time they were successful, they actually almost completely wiped out Shevuot Binyamin. Almost wiped them out completely. Wild. So we'll break it down right now. What does it mean that you're saying that all of them are Chol? All of them are not Hashem, but seemingly they asked Hashem 3 times, and the first time, all 3 times said yes. So the first time, and then they lost the first 2 wars. Does that mean God didn't keep his word? No. He said, go fight. He didn't say you'll win. They didn't determine whether they're going to win. But the last time Hashem said you will win, Hashem did say you're going to win. It says, and Hashem said, go and I'll let you win. Anytime it says Shlomo in Shir Hashirim, it's Hashem's name. Shir L'mish Hashem Shlomo is referring to those who the song for whom peace belongs to, which is Hashem. Host means that. That word is referring to Shlomo himself. That's referring to Rabbanan. That is referring to that you have to have a certain amount of people learning Torah if you have a certain amount of people going to war. Even that one's the following one is going to be Shlomo's name is going to be not Hashem. Right, the famous pasuk of Shlomo Melech had a guard standing around him because the Gemara Masechet Gitin, he was traumatized by the king of the demons who kidnapped him. If you want that story, let me know. Okay, Avzet, following pasuk as well. So the second opinion holds that the mention of Shlomo Melech is not Hashem's name, And you first, not first, I'm sure not the first case of the vineyard, where we mentioned the soldiers. A government that has 1/6 of its army, of its population in the army, is not punished. Neymar, 200 people. Right, so we see that the person, the kingdom is able to get um, at least up until a sixth of the people into the army. Shmuel argues against both Tanakh and against Yoshimrim because otherwise you can't learn that pasuk to teach you that. The Gemara says, Elachi Kamar, Yeshomrim, Ze Kodesh, the mention of Shlomo Melech, his name is Kodesh in that pasuk, V'zeu Chol B'masto, but the one in the case of the bed is not. Ushmo Damar Kishrim, Shmuel holds like Yeshomrim. Okay. Kol Machia Amr B'Daniel Hol, said that all the kings, all the mention of king in Daniel, in the story of Daniel is not Kodesh, Hus Mizish, except for one. Ant Malka Melech Mahed Shmei Machutah Hasana B'Taklo Yikra Yahavlach. Yeshomrim says no. أعسى كنت أصلا عشان نمشي مرة مع الإيه محمد أخبر إيش العارف كمان كمان who's Daniel telling this to إذا داخل Nebuchadnezzar كمان there right so what's going on is Nebuchadnezzar had a terrible nightmare terrifying King Daniel said let the dream be interpreted on your enemies so now if Daniel's telling this to Nebuchadnezzar سنتقل معنينه يسأل ما قالت Israel but does that mean that he says the enemies who's referring to Bnei Israel would Daniel say this curse God should curse your enemies with the interpretation of your nightmare does that mean he's cursing Bnei Israel from God so therefore he was saying to God that it should happen he's talking to God and therefore it should happen to God's enemies which is not proof Tanakh Masavar Sunei Israel Ki'ika Sunei Avad Hameleka Nebuchadnezzar also had non-Jewish enemies. Okay. ובכל כינויין הרי אלו חייבים. If the witnesses swore by any of the other names of Hashem, חייב. ובמיני בסתירה, ייתן השם אות אחד לעלה ולשבועה. מה תאמר? was mean פסוק תשעיו. והלא כבר נאמר, the pasuk already said, והשביע הכהן את אישה בשבועת העלה. The word Allah is confusing us, seemingly. למי שתאמר בשם הכל Allah, נאמר כאן Allah ונאמר Allah, we see, so Torah mentioned Allah, and over here mentioned Allah. Did you Mama Alan Shavua Afghan? Just like over there, the word Allah means Shavua. Also over here means Shavua. Ma'alan B'Shem Afghan B'Shem. Just like over there, it could use Hashem's name. So to over Hashem's name. So we see we need Hashem's name specifically to make a Shavua. The Gemara says, "La kashya harabi chanena ba'idi harabi natzmach lo kertanya Rabbi Hanina b'Rei Demer ko elam ra Torah shishava v'lo tishava." Since Torah said swear and don't swear, kalel v'lo sometimes curse and don't curse. Ma'asher b'Shem af lo tishava b'Shem. Just like you can. Swear means swear with Hashem's name, and when it says don't swear, it means with Hashem's name as well. Therefore, you can see Rabbi Hanina says that you only chayav for swearing by Hashem's name. Ma kidal b'Shem af lo tikdal b'Shem. Right? And when the Torah says curse, it means with Hashem's name, and therefore, when it says don't curse, it means also with Hashem's name. Abadan, if you learn to exert Shema that way, then you should also need Hashem's specific name. If you don't know the Sheva, where do you learn that the word Allah means a Shevuah? Gemara says, Allah, the Torah uses it regarding holding back testimony. And Allah over there, you can't bring a proof from the Kohen because that it says the swear of the Allah. Maybe Allah plain by itself would not mean that. The Gemara says, Allah and Allah b'shvuah must be referring to swear. How do we know that if a swear is without a curse is considered a shavua? Like how do we know that only by Kohen it sounds like you can only swear with a curse? Where do we know that a swear can out without a curse counts? We see that even without a curse, it still works. Remember, the word Allah also swearing. Nebuchadnezzar forced Tzidkiyahu to swear. He forced Nebuchadnezzar to swear. He forced made Hizkiyahu to swear because Hizkiyahu saw Nebuchadnezzar eating a live rabbit, which was quite messed up. So he made him swear using Hashem's name that he won't tell anybody. Okay,